and we are recording. We would like to welcome everybody on this evening to the Source Seeker Hour, where we find the answers to the community's problems. I want you to get ready because tonight is a very, very hot topic. We're talking about, do Black lives really matter? And joining me on this broadcast is the Source Seeker himself, Brother Baruti Alexander, and we are also blessed to have the presence of Brother Centwali, which is going to give us a very strong perspective on what's really going on. If I would for a second, starting with Brother Centwali, what I want to do is that I want to take a second for you to introduce yourself to the audience and just to let us know a little bit about yourself and what you're previously doing, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Centwali Olushola. I grew up in Houston, Texas at the Shrine of the Black Madonna. And so I have a upbringing that basically primed me for not only social activism, but nation building, I'll say philosophy, a little bit of politics. I had a pretty well-rounded education growing up. That was actually primary to from high school and that whole grade school. So I also was able to learn at the feet of a lot of very profound and individuals. And right now, I actually working on a couple different initiatives as far as property ownership. Have a couple businesses that work to that end, and a lot of different things coming up. Working on a couple different works of literature, a book or two. Still just working on it and kind of penciling things together. But that's me.
Oh wow. Brother Centwali, you are leading a very exciting life and definitely being a productive asset to the community. So we're really blessed to have you on the show. Thank you. We also got Brother Baruti on the show, Source Seeker himself. Source Seeker, tell us something. Tell us something.
First, I want to say to the audience, there's a lot of guests that are seeking to get in, and they are trying to contact me to help them to get in. So we'll be joined by some more people. And I just want to say, Source Seeker, the name is about survival and still seeking. That's where the name comes from. It has a lot of other parts to it, but just think about those two things, survival and still seeking, the highest high that God would allow me to aspire to. So that's what a Source Seeker is. And Bishop George, if you'll let me work on getting the other people in to share with us, I'll do that while you continue with the show.
Thank you so much. Myself, I am Bishop George Sanders. I was born here in Houston, Texas, been in Houston, Texas all my life, product of North Forest Independent School District. Have a ministry, a church here in Houston, Texas, Greater Mount Carmel, the Church of Restoration. Very Afrocentric background, definitely community-minded, and just want to see some great things happening, especially in this era that we're living in right now. It's a book called A Tale of Two Cities that says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I feel like that's what we're living now, even though things are looking bad in some aspects with this 2020. I do see where 2020 is a year of opportunity, where people in 2020 are gonna come out with new initiatives, new ideas, and I just see a lot of great things coming up out of the chaos. A great man once said that order comes from chaos. Out of chaos will come the order. So I'm seeing that happen for 2020. Brother Centwali, the question that we're asking on today is do Black lives really matter? And the one thing that we're trying to do, because with everything that has happened in 2020, the police brutality cases, of which right now George Floyd is the paramount and really has been a zeitgeist and a catalyst for all the other cases that are taking place right now. And it's funny because you have the organization Black Lives Matter, and at the same time you got the philosophy Black Lives Matter. And the reason that we pose the question, do Black lives really matter? Because we want to know, is there a disconnect from the organization than it is from the statement of the philosophy Black Lives Matter? Is there a disconnect between the organization and the statement? And I just want to get it started right there, and then we can take it deeper from there.
Okay. All right. So as for starters, I'll say that I personally don't feel that there's a disconnect between the concept and the organization. I feel like there are people who have people who have co-opted Black Lives Matter, and they turn it into something else. It's financial gain in it because people want to donate money to it. People want to seem like they're not racist. People want to actually support the movement. So there's a lot of money coming in from different sources. There's people that can take advantage of that and set up a bank account, and that's called Black Lives Matter LLC, Black Lives Matter Inc. Like, there's so many different ways to state it legally, to the point where a lot of people can make a lot of money off of it. And so
right,
that disconnect occurred. But the biggest disconnect that I think is being perceived, especially given from the media's perspective, is that there's Black Lives Matter from a philosophical sense about it, but then I think that's very underplayed. And then there's Black Lives Matter as a malicious organization that's working with Antifa and working with all these other different actual malicious entities in American society. That's like I say, that's when I say, I mean, the movement has been co-opted. There's people calling themselves Black Lives Matter, and people being visible on behalf of Black Lives Matter, but then when the camera's off of them and they feel like they got a little bit of secrecy or a little bit of space to do what they're gonna do, they're gonna spray paint, or they're gonna break some windows, or they're gonna do whatever looting is actually occurring. I really feel like, for the most part, the disconnect is intentionally being perpetuated. Go on, dog. So I feel like the disconnect is being perpetuated, and it's not an actual disconnect in regards to how people are actually doing the work, being active on the streets and being active in whatever courtrooms that they could be in. So I think that's probably my perspective on that.
Okay.
I got a little perspective, brother.
Go ahead, Brother Baruti. What can you add to that? Because the question I asked, I don't know if you heard it. Is there a disconnect between the organization Black Lives Matter and the statement or the philosophy that Black Lives Matter?
I really want to say this. Yes, Brother Centwali was right on. Brother Sin was right on point when he said all of the different angles of it and people taking advantage of that and all of those perspectives. But I want to get back to the point. People who get upset seeing the sign Black Lives Matter, go back and think about all the signs that said blacks can't ride here, blacks can't drink this water, blacks don't step foot on here, and tell me were you upset about those signs back then. So we have a right to say Black Lives Matter because we counteracted 100 years of those signs. One sign, Black Lives Matter, can't make up for all of those particular signs that y'all was very cool with. So yes, we need to make up for the spirit and the consciousness by shouting Black Lives Matter, which is on the same par and probably even deeper than my brother James Brown say it loud and I'm Black and I'm proud. And it's a very important statement. And when you look at it in the context of those historical signs, yes, Black Lives Matter.
I like that. I like that. Let me ask you this, and I just want to get your thoughts on it. What do you feel from what you've seen with it? What do you feel that the #1 mission statement of Black Lives Matter is? Because the reason that I'm saying that is because if you've been on social media, you've been on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, some of the biggest battles that have been fought is that the Black Lives Matter organization itself does not want to be mistaken for having any religious ties or having any social ties. And what I mean by that is that there's been a lot of talk where people have asked, is or will Black Lives Matter do things to impact the community? From, I guess the best way to differentiate it is to uplift the community internally. And usually, and I've had many brothers in ministry, and I've had many friends, including myself, that have asked this question. And whenever we ask this question, we get, I'ma just say it, we get hit with the haterade, because it's like, how dare you even ask a question like that about uplifting the community? We're for coming against these police that are killing our Black boys and girls, which is noble. Let me say that. We need an organization that can do that. So my question is Black Lives Matter, is it an organization that is specialized to deal with one area that's hurting the Black community, or is it an organization that looks and seeks to uplift the betterment of all the Black community? And you can expound on that any way you can. And I guess I'll ask Brother Centrale what his thoughts are on that.
Okay, so as far as Black Lives Matter, I guess you're asking about its purpose to some degree.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll say Black Lives Matter. It seems as if at the moment is to raise awareness that there are injustices occurring.
Okay.
There are many ways not only to protest and in saying that, but there are many ways to propagate that message. Not in the sense that you'll be protesting. I think a lot of the situation when it comes to Black Lives Matter is that because there's no organization for it, there's no leadership for it, and there's nobody to look at and point fingers and scrutinize and put under the looking glass. So because there's no outspoken upfront leader for the whole movement, it's easy to attribute foul intent to it. It's easy for people to make a Black Lives Matter website and bank account and be taking donations and not actually be the movement. So because that occurs, there should either be some leadership or people being able to manage themselves in a protest to the point where Black Lives Matter is simply something to be said as something to hold on to and grasp, like past the point that it's a talking point to the point where it's a whole movement based off of those 3 words. That gives it, when you put the term Black Lives Matter as far as what people are doing or its purpose, it gives enemies of other people mattering the opportunity to demonize that movement when it's
Right.
when it couldn't be anything further from malicious if it's meant to be actually letting people know, hey, we experience an injustice here at the hands of the government in America. Like when you say Black Lives Matter, essentially that's what it means. Not only are we trying to let everybody know that, but we want the powers that be to do something about it. When if they were going to do anything about it, they would have did it a long time ago. In regards to helping people, so Black Lives Matter is purpose. It's real muddy. It could have some real good to it, but and even if a couple of people were to put out a manifesto saying that this is what Black Lives Matter means and is about, and what our demands are, and this is what we're gonna do if we don't get our demands met. If that's the case, then Black Lives Matter will actually have a purpose. You know, at this point, it's a lot of just lip service and being visible. Like, we want people to know what's going on. We gonna shout it from the mountaintops, but it's not one voice. So the purpose is essentially, it might even boil down to a little bit of confusion, unintentional, but it might be a little bit more confusion than it is beneficial. Yeah, I'll say that.
Wow, and I'm feeling you on that. Brother Baruta, tell us about it.
Well, you know, I've heard a lot of negative things about Black Lives Matter from, you know, Black people too, and you know, a whole lot of things. And I'm hearing what Brother Centwale is saying, but I just want to say this. Throughout history, it's always been a case that you had to have different forces to make change. During the 60s, on the one hand, you had the Black Panthers, you had Malcolm X, and you had Dr. King. They was more prone to listen to Dr. King because they didn't want to have to go to root of the Black Panthers or Malcolm X. So you have a lot of voices at the same time that can help change to happen. Black Lives Matter had the voice brought about by all the changes that are happening, especially with the George Floyd case, and that brought it to a crescendo. And I'm reminded how much people talk negative about Dr. King when he was alive. You know, he's revered today, but, you know, 1968, you know, there was a campaign of negativity against him. Even Black folks, some Black folks were talking against him. So things change in a lot of ways from different perspectives, but I'll stay with the positive of Black Lives Matter. They've brought about awareness. People are listening at a whole lot of Black voices because it's at a crescendo, and they are at the groundswell of that surge and have helped to shed light on the overall surge. So I'm positive for what Black Lives Matter has done.
All right, that's a great perspective. On the heels of that, though, I guess the next question that I want to ask, because one thing that we're seeing, because even though I know that it's two different movements, if you look at the movement that was going on with Martin Luther King and I believe SNCC, did I say it right, SNCC?
Yeah, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Right. I'm looking at the fact that Black Lives Matter has employed, and I use that word very youthfully, employed, but I would rather say it's reached or it's gained a lot of young people, and not only that, young people of other ethnicities, creeds, and colors. But what I'm seeing is that I'm noticing that they're very much different than the young people who were with SNCC, because it's like I'm seeing an ultra aggressiveness that's taking place with those that attest or confess to be a part of Black Lives Matter. I guess the question that I'm asking is, in your opinion, and this is what I'm asking you all, in your opinion, do you feel that Black Lives Matter, do you think that it's too radical a movement, or do you think it's not radical enough, or how do you feel about that? And this time I'll start off with you, Brother Baruti, and see how you feel about that.
Well, I mean, right in line with what I was saying. Yeah, there's a lot of radicalism attributed to Black Lives Matter. But just go back to the analogy of the signs. You know, it was very, and you talked about the 60s as opposed to today. If the young people back in the 60s had talked like the young people did today, they would have been taken in the back room. They wouldn't have allowed that. And of course, that's why Dr. King was arrested 40 times.
Right.
And he was mild compared to, of course, the voices of today. So, I mean, it was a different time. And, you know, with all the new technologies and new things that are available, the young people are talking. But leadership is important. So there is a leader of the Black Lives Matter movement. I forgot his name. He's about your age, Brother Centwali. And I don't remember his name, but they have attributed some very aggressive and strong and, you know, maybe militant words to him. Now, I did not see him say it. And I got to be very careful about what they attribute to other Black men, you know, because that's always been a tactic. They'll try to divide me and Brother Centwali and go tell him something that I said and tell him something that that they say I said. And if they can do that, then they got us at odds with one another. So until I hear him say it myself, I'm not going to attribute anything to him, but I'm going to look at the positive again of Black Lives Matter. And the positive is the surge in awareness that they are bringing and how it is shedding light on all the other Black issues. And so I'm going to look at that. And I keep in the context that back in the day, they said Martin Luther King was bad. They said that, you know, it's just a revisionist history. Today, they're saying he's a saint. So I got to keep that in perspective. Hi, Pam.
Hey.
Boy.
I'll say this, and I thank you for your view on that, Brother Baruti. I do want to say this. I do want to say hello to Lady Pamela Hicks, and thank you for joining the broadcast. We're happy that you're here, and I'm going to make you a part of this broadcast in just a moment. Just hang on tight, because we got to get you up to speed and caught up, because we definitely want to get your views, your opinions, and your feelings on what we're talking about on today. The Black Lives Really Matter. Before I go to Brother Centwali, I do want to say this to you, Brother Baruti, and that is that you mentioned, because we talked about the comparison between the young people that were in SNCC compared to the young people that are in the Black Lives Matter movement. And in my opinion, this is just me, but from what I know of history, because, you know, I was born a little bit after the death of Martin Luther King. So everything I know is from history too. But from what I saw from those that follow Martin Luther King and those that are in Black Lives Matter, if the Black Lives Matter kids would have been in Martin Luther King's era, there would have been a race war, in my opinion, or there would have been some type of extensive military coverage. It's like, I feel if they would have had that type of radicalism back in King's era, it would have escalated into something else. I don't know if we would have catapulted into another civil war or what would have happened, but I don't think that the mindset back then would have been as tolerant as it is now. and there would have been a clash. That's just me. Our history books would look a whole lot different. Now, who would have won? I don't know, but I know history would have looked different. And Brother Centrale, I want to pose the same question to you. Do you feel Black Lives Matter is the movement with the young people? Is it too radical? Is it not radical enough? Or what is your viewpoint on it?
Okay. I'll say about Black Lives Matter is like I said earlier, it's unorganized. It's a lot of frayed ends that could easily be united to make make many concisive maneuvers and I'll say influence legislation if those separate ends were brought together. There's a lot of very talented and knowledgeable individuals that make up Black Lives Matter, not only locally, but if you, like you said that there was a brother who's at the head of it that's speaking for Black Lives Matter, then I'm more than sure that he's got some level of education to the point where, or some level of experience that makes him fit to speak for the whole movement. So as far as Black Lives Matter as being too radical or not, I'll say it exists in a time where there's a whole lot more distractions and different influences that aren't necessarily beneficial to the long view of Black people in general. There's a lot of, to say it plainly, there's a lot of it seems like a hand behind every level of media behind as far as the depiction of Black men and women that's set to make people, not only other people look at us a certain way, but the way we look at ourselves. And because Black Lives Matter can't really do much about that right away, its level of being radical or not, it doesn't have, it can't exercise its power. I'll say that. It could be the most radical organization or the most passive but still effective, but it can only do so much because it's either incomplete or it's disorganized. And to me, that's essentially being incomplete as well, because if you can't start until you organize. Like I'm a chef, so I know that one of the things that I was taught is mise en place, everything in its place, and then you begin. So once you have once you're prepared to do a task, then you can go forward. Black Lives Matter it's just in name right now. It's not organized enough to be able to fulfill a task. Versus, as far as being versus the 60s, or to some degree along those lines, like I think I said earlier, you're dealing with a whole other level of distraction, like, and then not only are you dealing with a level of distraction, but you're also dealing with a level of maliciousness from a lot of white people, whether it's the government or private citizens. Like the level of violence that was still coming from people at that time. A lot of the Black youth, they were experiencing, they were likely hardened and not only ready to go into many different conflicts as far as military wise, but they were also dealing with those same conflicts, raising a whole generation, which turned into be like the 70s and 80s. Like there was a level of hardcore militancy, and then it died off. So dealing with the people now and the people then, there's so many different stimulus that I don't really want to say that there's a difference to be able to say that. It's more appropriate to say that our people have evolved. What the 20s and 30 somethings look and act like, it's evolved. Hold on. Yeah, it's just we've evolved. I won't say that there's a either or a difference. Like of course there is major differences, but like I say, it's too much to make it black and white and say that these were better, or these were worse, or these were more effective, or these are less effective. One of the major things that we haven't done is use the most effective tactics from the past if we're gonna call ourselves activists today. Like, so many different forms of protesting was done other than marching. So we don't do the other forms of protest by design, because that stuff is not taught, you know? Like, and if it is taught, you grew up in some organization that was teaching you about your history, your more recent history. Chasing that tail. but yeah, so yeah, that's what I'll say on that.
Oh, wow. Listen, this is the Source Seeker Hour. And what I want to do is that I want to take a quick break, because what we've done is that we brought on someone very special on the show. I'm talking about Lady Pamela Hicks. Lady Pamela Hicks is one of the founding stones of the Source Seeker Hour and the organization itself. She was there with Brother Baruti in the conception, and because of her, it's a lot of things that's working for us that's going on right now. So we owe a lot to Lady Pamela Hicks. It's an honor to have her on the show on tonight. And the one thing that we want to do, Lady Pamela Hicks, I want to take a moment for you to tell everybody, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing. And then after you do that, I want you to tell us, what is your take on Black Lives Matter? Is it fulfilling the role? Is it too radical, or is it not radical enough? Or what do you see should be taking place in it? So I know that right now I've given you a whole bunch of stuff to do, but I want to go ahead and put it in your hands, Lady Hicks, and hear what you got to say.
All right. Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. Yes, my name is Pamela Hicks. I'm a school teacher, fourth grade school teacher, HISD. Before I was a school teacher, I retired Houston Police Sergeant for 21 years. And I learned a lot. So we talk about Black Lives Matters. And I was with the Houston Police Department doing 83. So when Lee P. Brown was there, I'm not sure if you remember, through the 90s and into 2004. So I did 21 years and I did retire. It's interesting that you just say, because all this stuff that Black Lives Matter, we got to remember where it originated from and why Black Lives Matter, because the police, the killing of Black men by the police. But before I get there, can I say something? Because you mentioned Martin Luther King would be displeased. You know what? Martin Luther King made a statement. Initially, the whole thing was about integration. And once he realized, integration and how the rootlessness and the evilness that that kind of centered around that, he is definitely a man of God. What I was trying to say, in the end, he said, I think I led my people into a burning building. By that, what he meant was, they asked Dr. King, how did you defeat the Montgomery bus boycott? And in his statement, he said, we simply removed our economic funds. And believe it or not, back then in 1955, it cost 10 cents to ride the bus. And when they removed, they stopped. Now, hold up, when they did this boycott of the bus, it lasted, I believe, 290 days. I may be off with that. So it wasn't like in a day or a week. It took almost a whole year. And the bus company went bankrupt. So the economic funds go back again. So Dr. King, once he realized, he said, I think I led my people into a burning building. It's really not about integration. It's about wealth and economics. So we got a building. So Black Lives Matter, let's go now, we're going to spring forward too. So do I think that he would, I think that it's just like doing with Malcolm X. And during that time, they had two opposing, but that, like he even said, that part is needed because then they were able to negotiate with him. He said, you can deal with me or you can deal with the latter. and which was Malcolm X, by any means necessary. So they chose to go. So Black Lives Matter is basically because the killing of police. Kaepernick addressed it in a nonviolent protest. So that was that Martin Luther King situation. He knelt. Oh, they thought he was discussing evil, and Trump did everything he could to say that son of a will never work again. And you knew he said that. He said, and I told the NBA, NBA. I told the National Football League to not hire that son of a gun. So, and then I saw this nice letter with this white guy apologizing, because either you deal with this, Kaepernick, or you deal with Black Lives Matters. Black Lives Matters is not a scattered force. It's really the original founders. I don't know the original founders, but I know who's taking the baton going with it. It's Shaun King. If you don't follow Shaun King, then you need to do so at this point. That is really, behind Shaun King is the lawyers. Meredith, what's that other guy? These are the lawyers. And I'm the one that what I do give to Shaun King. If you don't follow Shaun King, this is the one that brings all that attention to us. So do I think Black Lives Matter? Absolutely not. It's not unorganized. But the organizers are very young. They're younger than us. So they're like maybe in the late 30s, even 40.
I think he's 35.
He's 35. So we got in some promising people. We got Shaun King. We got Angela Rye was really big until she got under CNN. So she had, they kind of silenced her mouth, but she was like the forerunner. And then we have Amanda Seales. I mean, you got these people that are really gun and hey, unafraid. They're bold. I think that one thing about this, Black Lives Matter seems like it has Trump. One thing Trump has did, 45, he's regenerated where we understand economics like we never understood it before in our life. And we understand business. I'm on a Facebook where it's a restaurant Black business. So I'm seeing people driving from here to there to go to Black business. I've heard stock. What's that guy, Basin? What is his name that now is teaching us how to do stock? And it's important. I forgot his name. He is just, it is now we have a classmate that's trying to sell gold bars. What I'm trying to say is that I was talking to my husband. He said, this one thing Trump has, he's caused us to focus and refocus and weigh what's important. Business, economic, building a brand. No longer say, can we have a job? We create our own. Now, is it going to take like that? I think that it's going to take time, but our mind has to stay on the prize.
Lady Hicks, with that, do you think with what's going on, we could see the resurgence again of something similar to another Black Wall Street, like what was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, maybe?
Absolutely, and I think that's the goal. You got to understand one thing about it, Tulsa, Oklahoma, it was bombed. I mean, it was absolutely bombed. And we just heard in Wilmington, North Carolina, in like the 1890s, they had another like a Wall Street, but not a Wall Street, but they were so educated that they actually rated them thousands. They kept that history. They won't even open it up, because if anybody asks about it, they keep it shut. That was that whole thing. A lot of lawyers, Black lawyers, they were well educated. They owned the property. They destroyed it. So anytime they want to say Black folks, we don't do anything, we're lazy, we're not willing to work, and you had Wall Street, you had Rosewood, you had Cologne, Texas, where those Blacks in Cologne near Goliad owned thousands of acres. They took it. I mean, you can count. So every time it seemed like that Black build wealth. Oh, don't forget that one that happened in the movement. What was that in Move in Philadelphia? They burned that whole block down.
Yes.
So we got to understand, we Black folks in the 1890s came from nothing. And that preacher that preached that, he said nothing, and they built something. We can do it again, but we're not starting from nothing. We just haven't realized to put our resources together, our economic funds. And I'm not talking about put all your money in one basket. That's just not smart. You have to be smart about it, but we have so much that we can build the Wall Street. We don't have to say, please hire us. We can demand with economic funds in that money. When we had that blackout, money, when you stop, they said we spend trillions of dollars, particularly we're the big buyers of fast food. If we remove our money, they'll listen. But it's all about economics. We trillions. We are trillions. They keep saying we're 10% of the population. But the Black females are one of the most educated. So out of white females in that and Black. So at this point in time, I think we can do in Black. I think that the Black Lives Matter, if you get on the right train. Now, I'm not talking about this, like you said, the radical part. You can always have radical. You're gonna have straight doers. You're gonna always have the Kanye West. But you can't see the whole, you can't throw the baby out with bathwater. It's just the bathwater that's bad. We got to make sure that we know what the foundation is. But you're always going to have those people like, what's his name, the Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas. You're going to have all of them said, I got a nephew like that. He's a Trump. I think, something's wrong there.
Yeah.
I think that's when a person kind of hates the skin they're in.
Yes.
What was that girl now that Candace, what was her name?
Candace Owens?
Yeah.
Candace Owens.
I think she's been paid, really. I think she's.
She got to be paid.
Yeah.
Lord. Well, she's in Trump's pocket. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
So was Omarosa, and she went crazy, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I think that's going to eventually happen to Candace Owens once she gets that real disrespect.
I think Omarosa didn't go crazy. She got sane. And she
yes. They first made it crazy though.
And then
Omarosa was in Trump's pocket. I mean, the same thing with Candace Owens, but she was getting big money. What happened is she had enough. I kind of want to think like Baruti said. I think she had enough. And I mean, you can only call me, the Black B for so long, the Black Hen for so long, and eventually they told her where her place is because Trump has fueled that type of a supremacist and that hate. He's evil. He's an evil man. I tell you, if you only know how evil he is, this is a man that won't even give his blood DNA to clear himself from a rape. I mean, that will clear you. This is a man that has court documents that he settled with that Epstein guy, numerous lawsuits with 14 or 15-year-old girls that he settled. I mean, he called it fake news. You can call it fake. He is, but they put him in position, and he's going to destroy. And you see even with this corona, he is. And you know what? At this point in time, I think that I'm not saying it's a good thing, is that the hate. One thing what Dr. King said, and I always go back to this one because I always, I got to the point I was just hating people. He said, for a person who hates their center of objectivity is off. He said, they'll see a beautiful person and call that person ugly. For a person who hates, the right become wrong and the wrong become right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see the person, I see people that hate, they can just say that, this could be right. And Trump will just say it's wrong. And then his followers. So then you start realizing that's what he meant. these people, they know this is right, but they said, I don't want to wear a mask. I have my right. I can go in there and shoot up the home and kill Breonna Taylor. I was in my right. And all the evidence is wrong. I mean, they didn't even have a warrant. That was nothing. They lied, and it's justified.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll say real quick before we go to the next topic. I think we have already tried the whole concept of creating this massive Black Mecca in America. We did it before, and it got burned down. And we did it in small amounts throughout different cities, like you said, with MOVE, and it got burned down. Just like the way our activism has evolved from what it was in the 60s to now, our efforts have to evolve as well. Otherwise, we'll still be looking for equality when the civil rights movement is about equity. And we didn't achieve that. We achieved equality, which is legal on paper. We had the same liabilities and the same financial rights, but we didn't receive equity that would make us operate on par with the rest of the world, with the rest of America. So we had to work from a pit, from a hole, and work on digging our way out of that, all while being dumped on, while we working our way out of that hole. So if we still trying to find a place of peace amongst hate, then we're gonna end up doing the same thing over and over again. We had the massive Black Wall Streets in more than one places, and it got burned down. It got divested from. It got completely dismantled, whether from the inside and out. Really, that's kind of the only way a city can be destroyed, unless you're talking about a nuclear bomb. Otherwise, inside and out, it has to be those different influences that crumble a city. In Oklahoma, for sure, it was attacked on the outside, but on the inside, people had all these assets but couldn't protect it. So that was the outcome of Black Wall Street being a placard on a sign, or something that you Google and see that was in the past. It doesn't exist anymore. At this point, we would be trying to amass all these different assets in America, of all places, but in America, and we would have to protect that. We not able to protect one another, sleeping in their house. And look, I'll say this: had the brother shot the cops and survived, we don't know what would have happened if Breonna Taylor would have had a gun as well and woke up and she would have shot and survived. Like the brother in the bed next to her and her, if both of them had to start shooting at the cops, what would have been the outcome? It would have been, a shootout. Then the no-knock warrant would have been justified and in the right place, just because people got shot up. But one person survived the whole deal, so they couldn't just say, it was a no-knock warrant and we successfully carried it out. A whole person lived through it because they took casualties. That's the only reason why it got to the point where, we was wrong. Dang, yeah, wrong door, wrong house. When it actually when it occurred later, we accepting more and more punishment, and we basically being punked and pushed to see just how much we can take before the boom is really dropped on us. We can't afford to do the same thing, do a whole nother move on a larger scale, do a whole nother Black Wall Street on a larger scale, just to have it being co-opted and taken from us. Imagine developing a whole city's worth of land just for it to be taken from you, because the people next door didn't like what you was doing. They come and murder everybody. That's happened on so many cases with many, many Black cities in America. They're not even Black cities no more, because they've been completely massacred. The people get massacred and all of the assets been seized. Okay. Like at this point, we would be committing a crime to do the exact same thing as our ancestors did, because we saw how it failed. We can't do the same thing that they did. Otherwise, we're going to meet the same fate as them. We live in America.
Go ahead, Pam.
Well, we're talking about something really different. And I hear you're saying that you're repeating the process. Remember about as far as economic funds, building and creating our jobs. I'm not talking about in one whole at this point in time. I noticed that multiple, let me go back to what you're saying. One thing about it is that I'm a person, of course I'm retired HPD. I'm always packed. I carry my gun. I hope that I never live this earth to kill anyone, that is my, I hope that I know, but let me tell you something. Don't ever put me in fear of being harmed. And I'm talking about, I don't play with these Black Lives. I don't play with these, I'm in Tomball. I don't play with them. And I think they see the spirit in me. So even when I was in the police department, I didn't play. I saw those, I knew how those white boys hate. I saw it, how they hate you. And Lord forbid if you were with a white woman, oh my God. I saw, I'm gonna be honest with you. They hate you, but they wanted to sleep with me. Remember, I'm about 100 pounds lighter then. So I saw how red and outraged they get. I saw how cruel. I stood up because I've always been that person. Look, you're dirty. You're dirty. I called them dirty. I know what dirty is. I saw it. It's just film. So when I'm trying to say, yeah, I do have hope. Yes, it can be better, but we can't be afraid, meaning that we got to be conscious. We got to understand that it's not enough to have a gun. You need, it's kind of like riding a motorcycle. You just can't have a motorcycle. You need to get trained to ride that motorcycle. You need to be trained. We need to make sure that we always put that gun up and away from children. Your wife should know how to use a gun. You should know how to effectively use a gun, pass a gun. One thing about it, I remember my son when he was about 9. Me and my husband both had guns, and I was running in the house. I left my gun on the table. Went to the restroom, and he says, "Mom, you left your gun on the table." But let's be honest. I told him about the age of 7. You don't touch mommy and daddy's gun. It'll kill you. It'll kill you, me, and your dad. And then one day I left my gun on the table, and I told him, I said, now a 9-year-old could understand it. I said, well, Justin, let me have this talk with you. I said, if mommy leaves that gun on the table all day, will it shoot you? He goes, no. I said, what if I leave it on there for 30 days? Will it shoot you? He goes, no. What about a year? He says, no. I said, what if your friend walks in the back door and says, ooh, Justin, gun? I said, it's a possibility they're gonna shoot you? He said, yes. I said, aha, Justin. It's not the gun, it's the person with the gun. I said, when you see a person with the gun, you run, Justin, you run, because you're in danger of that person being useless. So the whole thing about it, we have to get our fear of guns, our fear of the man, our fear that we cannot achieve. It's about economic empowerment. If we remove our funds, and it was done with 10 cents, man, do you know how much we shop, we eat, we spend? It's about economic, the king said, it's about economic empowerment. When you constantly, and I even listen to Farrakhan, when he says, when you asking this man for a job, I'm not saying it's nothing wrong. All my job has been in government. And you remember, government was the big thing that hired Black folk. You know, right. If it wasn't the federal government, the city government, or the state government. And I've worked for the city for 21 years. Then I'm now working for the state, so to speak, PEA. But what I'm trying to say, and then I have my economic empowerment, but we have to work together. Work together with people with the same mindset. And sometimes it may not work, but if you do it enough times, you know, it's kind of one of these things, you do it enough time, you'll get this together. But we can't say this is going to work. You have to get moving the right person. I do believe that economic empowerment, I do that it can be done a different way. Can we ever defeat the military? Absolutely not. You see what's going on in Portland. Why? Trump has got these goons up there, just no badges on, no name tags. How in the world can he get away with that? And they just start, and the mayor was walking in Portland with the protesters, and then they jumped. Did you hear, Rick? They jumped these, what do they call this? They said they're military, but I don't know if they're military, but they jumped him, tear gassed him, and they were peaceful protesting.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Baruti, go ahead.
Okay, I want to comment on what Brother Santwali said and what Pam said. Yes, Black Wall Street didn't work, but an enemy had a hand in that. And throughout our history, an enemy has had a hand in creating. Now, we've made plenty of mistakes on our own, but you know, just like you said, we was trying to get out of the pit, and they drop in dirt in the pit as we trying to get out. During slavery, I'm sure that there were 100 slaves that did not make it and get out of slavery, but that didn't stop the 101 from running and saying, I'm gonna be the one to get away. So that's the way we gotta look at things. And I do believe that this is a time, and going back to the change from the people of the 60s to today, yes, they had a lot of obstacles that the kids of today do not have. A mindset obstacle also, because if you over and over try to put fear and different consequences against me that the kids of today don't have in their mind, that limits their moving forward, because you know, it's just not as simple. It's evolved. All of that has evolved. So at the same time, the business of what we can do economically has evolved also. So what happened yesterday does not have to happen tomorrow. It can be a brand new world. And that's what I wanted to say. And I appreciate both of you.
Can I say something about John Lewis? John Lewis is a hero of mine, because I don't know if when he was in college, you know, he was almost beat to death and killed at the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Right.
Now, you got one, look at all, King and all of them are dead. The other ones were. Can you imagine the thousands and thousands of people we've lost in the civil rights movement? It's painful. And I think John Lewis, and even the other guy that, what was the other guy, the civil rights, that was with him that just died too? Oh,
C.T. Vivian.
The Vivian. I mean, and Dr. King talked about it. Do you know how many that lost their lives to that? It's thousands just for the right to vote. It's just painful. And he almost died. And that's what started Dr. King when they did that Edmund Pettus Bridge. That was a powerful moment. And I always think about, what's that lady, Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer was in Mississippi, and she said the cops were so dirty, and she was a woman. They beat her so bad in Mississippi. She was the one that had the phrase, says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, because they beat her like she was a man. We, the good, have to stand up against evil. That's how we win. That's how, if Dr. King said, our lives begin to end when we become silent about things that matter. What it means is the good white folk have to say, this is wrong, along with the black folks. It's not enough for us, but when the good stands and say, no, that's wrong. I mean, you don't have to get into a verbal confrontation, or I'll shoot you, but they have to say, the good have to stand and say something. And
we can't wait on their good though to say it. You know, just like he said, why we can't wait. He said, hey, you know, you saying we need to wait here, wait there, and we'd have been waiting forever if we waited on good white folks.
Well, he said wait has almost been never for the black man. And when he wrote that in Birmingham jail, and he wrote that, he was really writing it to the clergymen, to the priests, to the rabbis who said that wait for a more perfect season. And he said, I'm beginning to believe that the Negro stumbling block is not the Ku Klux Klanners, but the white moderates who have a specific time for the black people's freedom. I always tell the black man to wait for a more perfect season. A wait has almost meant never for the black man. Until you sound the pounding of segregation on your back, you're harried by day, harassed by night. I'm a King lover.
Yeah, yes, I mean, yes. That's why the brother is Dr. Martin Luther King, because he was profound. And his legacy will, of course, live forever.
That's great.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Centrale. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I really feel like also I got a chance to read a couple excerpts from Dr. King's last book. Where do we go from here? If I'm not mistaken, Chaos or Community. One of the poignant things that stuck out to me was that one of his major positions in it was that not only does capitalism have to be reckoned with to some degree, but there has to be some type of recompense for the descendants of the slaves in America, the captives. I won't even say slaves, but captives. I really feel like the people that are elected officials, they perspectives would have to change so drastically that we would essentially be a socialist society for us to get what we need in order to operate with equity in America. Capitalism is not meant for everybody to equal or to have an equitable chance of survival. Really, just the whole concept of survival is not a natural way to live. Like if you on survival mode 24/7, there's no way in hell that you can actually live out your dreams and without protecting it. A lot of people do get a chance to live their dreams, but if they're not protecting it, somebody's gonna come take it from them. And that shouldn't have to be like that in America, whether it's from another black person from taking it from them, or a white person or anybody else taking anything from anybody. We're supposed to be prosperous in the land of the free, but everybody can't be prosperous in America. That's not.
Wow. Well, let me ask this question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me ask this question to you all as we're out of time, because I want to get everybody's thoughts on this. Even with what you said, Brother Centrale, it's like an introduction into it. We are at the cusp of a very major presidential election. How do you feel that the Black Lives Matter campaign and everything that's going on, will it affect the election? Of course, we've entered Kanye West and everything that's going on with him. Do you think the social unrest and the social uprising that's taking place, how will it affect the election? And what is your forecast that you see? Brother Baruti, I'll start off with you for this one.
Okay. Well, first of all, nobody should underestimate President Trump and the people who are backing him. There are people backing him because of his motto, "Make America Great Again." What does that mean to them? That means, let's go back to a time when the undesirables were under control. Let's go back to a time where we had the undesirables, where we had fear in them, they wouldn't go too far. And the Portland thing is a message to, hey, I'll pull out the troops, I'll send them to every city, I'm gonna get these undesirables under control. And so that is there's a lot of people that want that. So don't underestimate Donald Trump getting reelected. Now, on the other hand, we got to go out and say, hey, we got to go out and say, but we need those good white folks also to say, we've had enough of this crazy fool. Let's have another white man up there, Joe Biden. We understand him. And then, you know, we might get him out of there. But whether we do or not, we still have to do our best to rise up, and there's always a way. And, you know, within our little circle, we can build our little circle and make it bigger and make it grow and put in the economics, the organizational parts of it that need to take place. So we can start to have our circle. You could call it a Wall Street, you could call it a Mecca, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a good place. And that's what we want to do. And I'm Baruti Carl Alexander, and I thank everybody for letting me speak.
Baruti, I didn't hear you mention Kanye West.
I'll kind of quote what President Obama said about him years ago. That damn fool.
Centrale, I want to go to you. I'm gonna say Lady Hicks for last. Tell me how you feel. You're still on mute. Yeah, get off mute. We can't hear you.
Okay, so as far as Black Lives Matter impact on the election, I would say unless they put some effort to either do some lobbying and or like a voting block, then I think it'll actually have a serious effect on the election. If it's going to go the same route that it's been going, then it won't have any effect on the election. But the social unrest that is based around Black Lives Matter is going to have a major impact on the election. There's no way around that. And not only do we have to take into account that you got a lot of Black and brown people that are involved in that social unrest as far as experiencing that, but you also got a lot of white people who are actually experiencing the polar opposite from as far as emotional and philosophical and theoretical standpoint as far as all the social unrest goes. They experiencing the complete opposite of what we're experiencing as far as social unrest and its impact on the election. As far as Kanye goes, Kanye West is meant to split the vote. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, the Supreme Court has recently passed a mandate that makes it to where the state's popular vote has to coincide, or excuse me, the electoral votes have to coincide with the popular votes, as opposed to what it was last year and so many years before, where if you have so many people vote for a candidate in a certain state, that the electors, based off of those votes, they don't have to, they're not legally bound by anything to vote in accordance with the popular vote until now. So if I'm not mistaken, if that change has been made and that's going to be a precedent moving forward with every election, then we're going to be very close to the popular vote deciding who the president is. I don't know if that's the case. I can do a little bit more research, but if that is the case, then we got it's a lot of stuff that can happen based off of that, but that's every 4 years as well. As far as my future forecast, I really feel like I don't really think it matters who's going to be the president. It's going to be more the same. The people have to have a different perspective as far as what we're going to do, regardless who the president is. No government official that's worth their salt is going to take care of Americans. They working to make sure that the machine keeps working. Absolutely. We are a part in the machine, just like they are a part in the machine. There's fuel to the machine. Our labor is the fuel to the machine. And if we take our labor out of it, if we take our dollars out of it, then the machine won't be able to go. But as long as we constantly play our part in the machine working, nothing's gonna change. The person driving the machine, that's the president, and whoever is really sitting in the passenger seat telling them where to go. Those entities, that power, it don't matter who it is, they not working for the people. They working to make sure that the machine keeps on going and that it doesn't get blown up by anybody or from the inside. They not working for us. They never have, they never will, until the people actually decide to do something different for ourselves, whether that's here in America on hostile territory or in a whole nother country, because this world is massive and we'd be crazy to sit there, keep on thinking that we're going to be able to amass this empire without the white man attacking it like they have been. And that's me, Brother Centrale.
Bless you, brother. Lady Hicks, go ahead. Tell us how you feel.
Okay. Hey, that's wonderful to hear, because, Trump lost by 3 million votes last year. He won by electorals. And it's funny that he said something about, because, Obama won by electorals and the popular vote, but he lost 3 million. So if for that to change, I don't know, that's the political process. Like I'm saying to you, I have my doubts that would be corrected. Of course, Congress, yeah, it's the same old status quo, but we still have the voice. We still, like you said, we can call, we have to do something. We never be pessimistic, always be optimistic that we, like you said, it's all work together, but we can push and push, and eventually we have the power, and we have to keep thinking that. One of the things that Black Lives Matters, yes, they're gonna make a difference. And our economic empowerment, it's not one thing that breaks the camel's back, it's a multitude of things that breaks it. Black Lives Matter, this COVID disaster situation, this school, and all that is going to, and a lot of white folks are dissatisfied. That's the big protest is really in that. One of the things, one thing about Shaun King I disagree with, he's going against Biden. It's like either, it's kind of like, what choice do you have, Donald Trump or Biden? And you're gonna ask me what I'm gonna pick? You know what I'm gonna pick, and I'm gonna tell you why I'll pick Biden. One, we may have our first VP Black female. Two, Obama will be elected to the Supreme Court. So I'm going with Biden. I didn't say that I love him, but it's either, what choice do I have? And to not vote, and to vote Trump back in, are you crazy?
So Kanye is not an option.
Oh Lord bless. I'm so sad for him. I am so sad for him. My heart breaks for this child. Because I saw the video.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the video. My heart is broken. At first I just thought he was just being one of those people, but he really has a mental illness.
Yeah, the album coming out too.
Does he really? I'm gonna tell you something. When he said that about Harriet Tubman, I know he's in Trump pocket, but there's something wrong with that boy. I'm telling you, he's not an Omarosa where she's sharp. He's not a Candace Owens. He is something wrong with him.
Yeah.
I believe there's been something wrong with him ever since his mama died, when his mama passed. That was the change. But he's a billionaire.
So they say. They lied about that other.
That's true too. That's true too. So I'll take that, with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it, Pam? Pam?
It is.
Wow. And I'm gonna be messy real quick before we get off the show. I'm gonna throw some salt in the game. And y'all help me. We have a female on this panel, so I know that she can help us in our shades of ignorance. But I think that would Black lives affect the election is a very legitimate question, because at the time that President Trump was elected, we had a movement previous to Black Lives Matter that had a lot of steam and a lot of fire behind it, called Me Too. Oh. And you would have thought that the Me Too movement, with everything that they say that they stood for and everything they said that they had going on, Me Too was not only national, it was global. And I'm still trying to figure out, I know Lady Hicks already got her own spill on this gentleman, but I'm trying to figure out, how did we have a movement as strong as Me Too and nothing happened they got America's dad, Bill Cosby. Who gets Bill Cosby? I'm still scratching my head. Not only that, how it happened, how it came about. I'm still scratching my head. We got Bill, but we didn't get the done. And not only that, he became our president. Like I heard Lady Hicks say, he paid off porno stars. He paid off hookers. He I mean, he's on sound bites talking about how he gets women and the dastardly things he's done, and he became our president. So in the back of my mind, I'm saying a lot of people that support Me Too voted for Trump. I want to know, just being messy, do you see a comparison, or do you see shadows of that happening again with Black Lives Matter? What is your take on it? Will it become a political force?
You're talking to me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
I think Black Lives Matters, I'm sorry, Me Too movement did its job. No, wait a minute. When I say did its job, when I say did its job, not necessarily right job. What they did was they got Cosby out of it. Nobody's went to prison for Cosby. Let's get that. And based on what I've heard, and based on what even by, who was that, Farrakhan, and who was that other person, Dr. Umar, they said that reason why Cosby, they even went back, and Dick Gregory even went back as far as saying the reason why Cosby's son was killed for that reason too, because he was trying to buy NBC. He said that, and then I remember when his wife said they killed our son, and I remember she was shaking. You remember when she said that? She said they. And Dick Gregory, I frequently listen to Dick Gregory on YouTube, and he said that Cosby's son was killed. He said he was in a vehicle that you could not get a flat. It was one of these expensive David that fixed the flat itself. And that it just happened to be a white woman on the side of the road with high heels and a fur coat. And but my whole thing about it was Cosby, you know how that ended. But and Cosby kind of said some things, talked about, and I think you saw it on Larry King Live, where he talked about this fly that he put in women's drink, or he gave to women. He did not say, I'm sorry, I put it in their drink. Say he would give Quaaludes to women. That kind of, and sometimes you put a little fly in their drink. They kind of use that. And that woman that the woman that got him in the end, got him on testimony that he apologized to the mother. So the testimony that they got him, they nailed him on it, but you got to look at all the others. So it was a system that got him, and you got all the others that just happen to be white.
Indeed.
Even what was that Weinstein guy? You got Epstein, you got Trump, you got who else? This is just really, this stuff goes deep, and even they got others go so deep. But here's the deal. I shouldn't say this. I'm always suspicious when the big driving force is white females.
Can I say this real quick, Pam? Me Too, Black Lives Matter. Two different organizations, two different purposes. Me Too.
True.
Let me say this. Black Lives Matter. That white women, if they got to make a choice, they go say, let me just say white women, they go, race goes deeper than that. Race goes deeper. That's all I'm saying on that. And, it's been such a fear of the black man put in the minds and the culture. And in some ways that is still culturally and economically it still has some basis of their psychology and their feel good about themselves. So, so you're talking about a deeper thing when you're talking about the threat of Black Lives Matter as opposed to the threat of Me Too. I'll leave it at that.
I think Me Too had an agenda.
Me Too did have an agenda. I really think it was divisive. a lot of times, like you say, like you didn't really want to say that you were suspicious of me too, but I really think there are a lot of women who have some really messed up experiences with men in power, and they actually have valid claims to try to get either some recompense or at the very least to tell their story to let people know that there's a bunch of snakes and monsters around. As far as it becoming a movement, I think it was divisive to not only pull women of color to their side, but when they have whatever meetings that women could easily organize a whole lot better than men could, and actually have massive meetings, and they finna get together and chop it up.
Right.
These white women, they're gonna be real manipulative and gonna say, "Hey, listen, sister, I need you to vote this way." And if the sister had been either manipulated or is mentally pliable enough to just be moved to suggestion, she gonna vote against her own best interests. And
yeah,
voting is a subjective thing. Nobody can say whose best interest is for the individual, but it's a lot easier to manipulate somebody if they emotions are being strung at like a guitar, you know. That's what I got to say on the Me Too thing.
There's I feel that there's no way that Trump would have won without their vote.
Yeah.
That and I know people may say I've lost my mind for saying that, but there is no way Trump won without a big portion of that Me Too movement vote. So I feel the same way that the panel does, that it was a very divisive movement, because at the end of the day, they might have said that they got Epstein, but that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother source seeker, because Epstein was into some other stuff that they wanted to silence him about anyway before he opened his mouth. So I'm telling you, Epstein was, to me, in my opinion, he was a political assassination, because it was some other serious things going on a very high level that Epstein was privy to. And I think in the near future, we'll be seeing stuff in the media about it. Wow, listen, I got to obey the rules of our founder, Baruti Alexander, and I got to find a way to bring this thing to a close. First of all, I want to thank all of my wonderful guests. All of you have such a pristine insight on what's going on, and I'm sure that our listeners were very blessed, and they were very enlightened by everything that you all brought to the table. And if they saw things one way, I'm sure that they're going to see things in a whole different perspective after listening to all of you. I know I do, because y'all have really enlightened me on today. And I thank y'all for that. I got a whole different view of everything now. Thank you. Now, before we go off the air, I want everyone, once again, kind of let us know what you're doing, and if any of the audience would like to reach you or connect with you for more information or for help, if you could kind of tell us how you could be reached, whether it's through an email, whether it's on Facebook, or if you have a business number that they can have. And Brother Centwali, I'll start off with you. Oh, I need you to unmute. Yeah, unmute. Tell us again.
Okay, so my name is Centwali Olushola. I'm the type of person that does what needs to be done when it's time and when it's ready to be done, or at the very least when it's prepared. So I lend my hand to as many activist groups as I can, if I can be of service in any way, whether it's physical labor or putting my mind to work. I'm always there for all of that. I don't really cling to any affiliations, so I just do what needs to be done when I can. I can be reached at on Facebook, SENOLU, Senolu on Facebook. I'm Boeing Sin on Twitter, and I can't think of what it is for Instagram. I don't use Instagram a lot anyway, so y'all, that's me. Yeah.
All right. Lady Pamela Hicks, how can we reach you? How can we get in touch with you?
Okay, Baruti, I'm gonna lay back and kind of go back into that, Baruti. Can you go through Baruti if possible at this point? Because I really don't have anything private. Mine is, everything is public or business. So, but definitely I'm going to continue my my support. And when I say support, mine is more economic. I do use my voice as a, you know, I do not stay silent. I speak when things are wrong and that someone is or Black Lives Matter. In fact, I got my Black Lives Matter shirt. I had my blackout shirt. So I even support that cause. So I'm always there and down and in support of right. Not because it's just there, but a right movement.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm looking, I thank you for that. I see that Brother Warren Houston came on. Brother Warren Houston, we're at the end of the show, but I do want you to tell people who you are, how you can be reached, how you can be contacted. And we definitely plan on having you on many other shows. Could you talk to us for a second and let the audience know who you are?
First of all, let me first of all say my apologies to you all, Brother Baruti Carl Alexander, for my tardiness. It acts absolutely just completely, and we talked about it yesterday, and turned around and slipped my mind today, and my phone was off, and when I cut it back on after when it finished charging, I'm like, oh my God, I done missed the program. So y'all please forgive me. I'm sorry, my apologies for that. But I am Warren Houston. I am Assistant Governor of District 5890, Rotary District 5890 here in Houston. I'm also the author and creator of the People's Law Study Group. And we started back several years back, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, bringing the legal education to the community. And so we would meet every Saturday at the Shrine of the Black Madonna from 12 to 2, and we educated the community on the judicial system. It is my belief after receiving a law degree is that the reason why people of color receive so much problem from governmental institutions such as the police is not so much as race as it is ignorance and illiteracy of how the legal system works. We as a people are more of a moral people which deal with morality, but the judicial system is a legal system which deals with legality. So if we don't know the system, we can't play the game if we don't know the system. And so that's the problem. That's one of the issues that we tackle.
Wow. If you don't mind me asking, Counselor Houston, can you trace your lineage back, or were you related in any way to the Attorney Houston that mentored Thurgood Marshall?
I've been asked that question before. So far, I don't really know. There's a possibility that, and I don't have evidence of that I could be connected to Whitney Houston, but okay. I can't. Attorney Houston, no, I don't know. But I would love to find that possibility out that's reality.
Oh wow! I tell you, well, one thing that I can tell you though, do not worry. I'm gonna be with Brother Baruti. And you're going to be on time and be a guest on one of our shows, because there's still a lot to discuss. But I just thank you for your effort and making it on when you did, so that we could introduce you to the audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And last but not least, the source seeker himself, Brother Baruti.
I just want to tell you a couple of things coming up. Our next show is going to be a sports show. That'll be our 50th show. This is our 49th show. After that, it will be recovery and a higher power. That'll be August 6th. August 13th, write this down. Controversies or conspiracy theories of COVID-19. And that'll be August 13th. That'll be Bishop George hosting that. And so we got a lot of beautiful and powerful things coming up on the Source Seeker Hour. So y'all keep checking it out. And we're live. This is going live right now. So we're going to be live every show. And it's on Facebook Live at the same time we're talking now. We usually only go an hour. And I try to keep it an hour because, you know, people's time span, they don't like to, go basically over an hour. That's quite a bit of time. So, but we had a lot to say. So I asked George to let us go a little bit longer. And I think we should have another time, Bishop George.
Yes, yes, yes. Because for all I know, we may be getting close to the 2-hour mark now. So we definitely got to come back and continue on this because it's so deep. And it's something that's really needed for the community. So I'm just, once again, for everybody that's here, I'm so appreciative. And since we are live on Facebook, if you're our friends, if you know us, I'm asking that you share the broadcast, that you get the word out about the Source Seeker community. We definitely want to do our part to keep our community woke and to keep them in the knowledge. So once again, I want to thank all my guests. I'm going to ask that I see you very soon on the next show that I'm co-hosting with. I would love to have every last one of you back because you bring so much flavor and so much meat to the conversation. So I'm personally asking everybody, including Warren Houston, to bring us back. And hey, it's going to happen and it's going to be big. So for the Source Seeker Hour, this is the Bishop George Sanders on behalf of Baruti Alexander and the Source Seeker Group saying thank you and good night. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.